Hey, amazing viewers, I love connecting with you all around the world. Stay with me until the end, because what I'm about to share will leave you inspired and ready to take control of your own life. In today's story, you'll hear about an incredible twist that no one saw coming. Also, if this is your first time here, press the subscribe button and join our incredible journey. The silent exclusion. It was a morning like any other in the busy heart of Chicago. The city skyline gleamed under the early sun, its towering structures casting long shadows across the streets below. Inside an office on the 24th floor, Olivia Hunter sat at her desk, already buried in work. The rhythmic clicking of her keyboard blended with the soft hum of the air conditioning, creating a sterile, almost suffocating ambience. Yet she was used to it, used to the isolation, the sense of being trapped in a world where everything seemed to be in perfect order except for one crucial thing: her family. Olivia had always been the quiet one, the perfectionist. She could feel the weight of her own high standards every day. As a senior designer at the prestigious advertising agency Creative Impulse, she was respected for her work, but there was something about her that kept people at arm's length. Her colleagues would often refer to her as the professional, the one who never let emotions get in the way of her craft, the one who always had her hair tied in a ponytail and wore her navy blouse with the same gray pantsuit every Monday morning. But what they didn't see was what she faced when she left work. They didn't see the woman who came home to an empty apartment every night, the woman who watched others talk about their families with warmth and affection, while she felt like an outsider in her own. There was always something just out of reach, something that no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't connect to. And that something was her family. As the morning light poured through the window of her office, Olivia's gaze fell on a photo frame sitting on her desk. It was her graduation photo, a rare memento from a time when she felt hopeful about the future. She was alone in the photo, the only one in her family who had ever received the kind of attention she dreamed of. But as she stared at it, a feeling of emptiness settled in her chest. Her mother's email notification snapped her out of her thoughts. The subject line was simple: Dad's birthday party. Olivia hesitated for a moment, her finger hovering over the screen. She already knew what the email would say. It always said the same thing. But today, she couldn't ignore it. After a deep breath, she opened the email, the words staring back at her as if they were written in a language she had long stopped trying to understand. Olivia, I haven't received your response about your father's birthday party. It's next Sunday. Vanessa has even taken special time off work. Are you coming? Her mother's words felt distant, cold even. Vanessa, her younger sister, the golden child of the family, the one who had always been the center of attention. Olivia's chest tightened at the thought of her sister, with her long blonde hair, blue eyes, and perfect life. Vanessa, the cheerleader who everyone adored. Vanessa, the one who could do no wrong. And Olivia, the one who was always in the background, never quite fitting in, never quite good enough. Her father, George, was no better. He had always been the easygoing one, the man who everyone liked. But at home, he was distant, rarely intervening in family conflicts, and never really showing interest in what Olivia did or felt. His attention was always on Vanessa, showering her with praise, while Olivia was left to fend for herself. The tears had come many times over the years, though they were never visible to anyone. They were the silent tears, the ones Olivia held back while pretending everything was fine. She had learned early on that the family didn't need her. They needed Vanessa. So Olivia chose to retreat, choosing work, choosing solitude, choosing silence. It was easier that way. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard as she typed a response to her mother, but she couldn't bring herself to send it. I'll reply later, she muttered under her breath, leaving the message unread. The birthday party. She didn't want to go. She didn't belong there. Not anymore. After all, it was always the same. Vanessa would be the star of the show, her father would smile and nod in approval, and Olivia would be an invisible guest, sitting quietly in the corner, pretending she was happy. But deep down, she was torn. She wanted to be part of the family again, to feel the warmth of belonging, to experience the love and togetherness that everyone else seemed to get so effortlessly. She didn't want to be the one left out. As she sipped her coffee, Olivia's phone buzzed again, this time with a call from her grandfather, William. Olivia's heart softened. He was the one person in her family who truly understood her, the one person who had always supported her, even when the rest of the family seemed to look past her. "Good morning, Olivia." Her grandfather's warm voice resonated through the phone. "Good morning, grandfather. How are you?" Olivia responded with a forced cheerfulness. "Still not letting the young ones beat me," William chuckled. "About George's birthday party. You're coming, aren't you?" Olivia hesitated. The question hung in the air like a weight. Why did he always ask her this? Of course, he knew she had been excluded from the family's events year after year. But he never judged her for it. He never made her feel like an outsider. "I'm not sure yet. I've got a lot on my plate with work," Olivia replied, trying to keep her voice steady. William sighed on the other end. "I understand. But Olivia, please, for my sake, come. I'm getting older, and these family gatherings are becoming more rare. We might not have many more opportunities like this." His words struck her deeply. Olivia knew he was right. Family time was fleeting, and if she didn't go now, she might never have the chance again. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting his request sink in. It was impossible to say no to him. "All right, grandfather. I'll come," she finally said, her voice soft with resignation. "Thank you," William replied with relief in his voice. "And by the way, I saw that article about your project last month. It was excellent. Your talent is truly something special." Olivia felt a lump form in her throat as she hung up the phone. For a moment, she let herself feel something other than sadness, a fleeting sense of appreciation, of love. But that feeling quickly faded, replaced by the familiar ache of loneliness. She looked at her calendar for the following Sunday. It was blank, but it was never truly empty. Her thoughts were filled with questions. Was it worth it? Was she truly wanted, or was this just another obligation, another charade for the family? The uncertainty gnawed at her as she sat back in her chair, staring out at the city below. Deep down, Olivia knew what she needed, but what she wasn't sure of yet was how much it would cost her to finally confront the truth. The hidden truth. The following day, Olivia stood on the porch of her mother's house, the wind gently tussling her hair as she took in the familiar view of the suburban street. Everything around her felt so ordinary, so unchanged. But nothing in her life was ordinary anymore. The invitation to her father's birthday party had stirred up old wounds, wounds that had been buried deep inside for years, wounds that now seemed to bleed all over again, leaving her questioning everything she had believed about her family. She had come to her mother's house under the pretext of printing some materials for work. Her own printer had broken, and with a looming deadline, there was no choice but to come here. But as soon as Olivia stepped inside, she felt it, this quiet, invisible barrier between her and her family. It was something she had sensed for years, but could never put into words. A distance that wasn't physical, but emotional. Her mother, Martha, greeted her with the same formal warmth as always. "Olivia, you came. Perfect timing. Vanessa just went out to buy decorations for the party, and I've just ordered the cake." Martha's words hit her like an icy wind. Vanessa just went out to buy decorations. Of course, Vanessa was the one handling the party. Of course, it was always Vanessa. Olivia could barely hide the hurt in her eyes as she nodded. "I'll just use the printer," she said softly, masking the ache that rose in her chest. As she walked upstairs to the study, Olivia's mind was racing. The whole situation felt like a cruel game, one she had been playing for years without realizing it. She thought of the family gatherings, the birthday parties, the holidays she had missed or been excluded from. They had always told her she was too busy to attend, and she had believed them. But now, as the years went on, Olivia began to see through the lies. It wasn't her career that had kept her away. It was the family's indifference, their decision to leave her out. In the study, as Olivia powered up her mother's computer, she was struck by something unexpected. A password prompt. It was strange. Olivia had never needed to enter a password before. She called out downstairs, "Mom, can you remind me of the password?" "Oh, I changed it last week. Use my phone instead." Her mother's voice floated up from downstairs. Olivia felt a flicker of confusion. Why change the password if it was just her and Vanessa using the computer? It was a small thing, but it felt off. She grabbed her mother's phone and unlocked it. Finding her email app almost instinctively, she began searching for the files she had sent herself, a simple task. But as her fingers scrolled across the screen, something caught her eye. A folder labeled Private Albums. It was tucked away behind other apps, and curiosity gnawed at her. Without thinking, she tapped the folder. What she saw inside made her freeze. There were dozens of albums, each one marked with titles she had never heard of. Vanessa's Birthday, Florida Trip 2023, Christmas Dinner, Family Weekend. Her heart pounded as she opened the first album, Vanessa's Birthday. There it was, a smiling Vanessa, surrounded by their parents, family friends, and relatives. A celebration, a birthday party. But Olivia wasn't there. She was nowhere to be seen. Her hand trembled as she swiped through the photos, each one more painful than the last. She didn't even remember hearing about the party. How could she have missed it? She had been told that she was too busy, that her presence wasn't necessary. But now, the truth was slapping her in the face. The party had been for Vanessa. Again. Her eyes blurred as she opened the next album. Florida Trip 2023. Photos from a sunny beach, her parents, and Vanessa, smiling, laughing, soaking up the sun. Olivia's breath caught in her throat. This was the same week she had been told there was an important presentation at work, the excuse they always used when they wanted her to stay away. But now she saw it. She saw the lie. She had been left behind. Again, while they created memories without her. The next album, Christmas Dinner, was no better. This time, the photos showed the family around a lavish dinner table, with everyone laughing, including her grandfather, William. There she was again, missing, left out. This time, she had spent Christmas alone in her apartment, watching the holiday festivities from her window, feeling like the outsider she had always been. Olivia's chest tightened as she opened the next album, Family Weekend. It was the same. Her parents, Vanessa, even her grandfather, all together, enjoying a weekend away. But no Olivia. Never Olivia. She flipped through the albums, one by one, her tears falling silently. The printer buzzed, snapping her back to reality. She had forgotten all about the task she had come to complete. But the photos, the memories that didn't include her, had taken over. Her hands were shaking, her vision blurry. She quickly wiped her eyes, but the emptiness inside her was growing, expanding, consuming her. The feeling of being unwanted, of being invisible, was overwhelming. Just then, she heard her mother's voice downstairs. "Olivia, did you finish printing the materials?" Olivia quickly restored the phone to its original screen, wiping away the tears that had fallen without her realizing. She didn't want her mother to see. Not yet. "Yeah, I did," Olivia said, her voice trembling. "I'm finished." Martha returned upstairs, oblivious to the storm inside Olivia. "You're leaving already?" she asked, surprised. Olivia nodded. "Yes, I still have work to do." She couldn't meet her mother's eyes. It felt like the truth was spilling out of her, like the cracks in her carefully constructed facade were starting to show. She wanted to say so much, to shout, to demand answers, to ask why. But she didn't. She simply turned and hurried out of the room, down the stairs, and out the door. The moment the door clicked shut behind her, Olivia felt the weight of her emotions crash down. She wasn't just leaving her mother's house. She was leaving behind a family she had always longed to belong to. A family that had never truly seen her. A family that had quietly, deliberately excluded her from their lives. Tears blurred her vision as she stepped into her car, slumping against the steering wheel. She cried, not just for what had been taken from her, but for everything she had been made to believe. The lies, the neglect, the exclusion. The painful truth was that she had never been a part of their world, and maybe, just maybe, it was time to stop pretending she was. The road ahead was uncertain, but Olivia knew one thing for sure. The time had come to stop waiting for an invitation that would never come. The power of liberation. The weeks that followed were a blur of busy work, silent nights, and quiet reflection. Olivia threw herself deeper into her career, pouring all her energy into her designs and campaigns. The accolades came, the recognition from her peers, the promotion she had always dreamed of. Her reputation at Creative Impulse soared. Yet, despite all the professional success, there was an emptiness that lingered, a hollow space in her heart that no amount of work or achievements could fill. The decision to cut ties with her family had been a difficult one, but deep down, Olivia knew it was necessary. She had spent so many years bending herself into the shape of what they wanted her to be, working harder, achieving more, always trying to prove that she was worthy of love, worthy of attention. But in the end, no matter what she did, it was never enough. She had always been the outsider, the one left behind, the one who was never truly seen. As the days passed, Olivia came to a powerful realization. Sometimes, the most freeing thing you can do is walk away from the relationships that are holding you back. Not because you don't love them, but because you love yourself enough to stop waiting for validation that may never come. She had spent years waiting for her family to notice her, to accept her, to finally see her as she was. But the truth was, they never had. And that was no longer her burden to bear. One afternoon, as Olivia sat at her desk sipping coffee, her phone vibrated, pulling her from her thoughts. It was an unknown number. Normally, she would have ignored it, but something inside her told her to answer. "Hello," she said, her voice calm but guarded. "Olivia, it's me, your grandfather, William," the voice on the other end said, filled with a quiet sadness. Her heart skipped a beat. Grandfather, William, the only family member who had truly understood her, the only one who had never made her feel invisible. She felt a lump form in her throat as she listened to his words. "Olivia, I know what happened," he said gently. "I know you've distanced yourself from the family, and I respect your decision. But there's something you need to know. I was there. I saw the hurt you've been carrying for years, and I want to tell you this. What happened wasn't your fault." His words were like a balm to her soul, soothing the pain she had carried for so long. She had always blamed herself, thinking that somehow she had failed to fit into the family. But hearing her grandfather's voice, full of understanding and love, made her realize something important. It wasn't her. It was them. "You're not broken, Olivia," William continued. "You are exactly who you are meant to be. And the strength you have shown, the way you've chosen to live on your terms, this is something to be proud of. You don't need their approval. You never did." Tears welled up in Olivia's eyes as her grandfather's words echoed in her mind. For the first time in her life, she felt like someone truly saw her, not just for what she did, but for who she was. After hanging up, Olivia sat quietly at her desk, her mind racing. It was as if a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. She realized that the love and acceptance she had spent so many years searching for wasn't going to come from her family, not in the way she had always hoped. But that didn't mean she was alone. She had learned to stand on her own, to embrace her own worth, to find peace within herself. The next morning, as Olivia walked to her office, she felt different, lighter. For the first time, she didn't feel the need to prove anything to anyone. She had freed herself from the chains of expectation and judgment. And with that freedom came a new kind of power, a power that was all her own. Her family may have never seen her, but Olivia had finally seen herself. And that, she realized, was all that truly mattered. So she made a promise to herself, to live for herself, to love herself, and to never again allow anyone's neglect or indifference to define her worth. Because sometimes, the hardest part of any journey is letting go of the people who are not meant to walk beside you. But when you do, you create space for the most important relationship of all, the relationship with yourself. The power to move forward, to rise above, and to build the life you deserve doesn't come from the approval of others. It comes from the courage to stand tall and say, I am enough, and I will never apologize for being me. Olivia may have lost her family's love, but she had gained something far greater, the freedom to love herself completely. And that, she knew, was the most empowering thing of all. Powerful message. In life, we sometimes spend too much time waiting for validation from those who will never give it. We seek approval from people who fail to see our worth, and in doing so, we lose sight of the most important truth. We are enough just as we are. True strength comes not from the acceptance of others, but from the love and respect we give ourselves. Never wait for someone else to tell you that you're worthy. The power to heal, to grow, and to thrive lies within you. Embrace who you are, and let go of the need to prove your worth. You are enough. Always have been, always will be.